Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're tackling something pretty huge, something that's, well, kind of taken over the world, right? I mean, smartphones,
Yeah, I mean, they've become so ubiquitous, it's hard to imagine life without them.
right? And I've been getting a ton of requests from you guys wanting to explore the whole smartphone revolution. Like, where did this all even begin? And how did we get to the point where these old devices are basically like running our lives? Yeah, I got to admit, I'm pretty fascinated by this myself.
Definitely. It's a fascinating story, and it happened incredibly fast.
So, like, I was trying to remember, life before smartphones. Yeah. And it feels like a completely different era. It's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, think about it. Remember rotary phones? Payphone.
Yeah. Like waiting for a phone call to come in.
And hoping the person you were calling was actually home.
Right.
No call waiting, no voicemail.
And forget about texting. We actually had to like write letters.
Snail mail.
Yeah.
It's practically a relic of the past.
But like for real though, it's mind blowing how much communication has changed in such a short span of time.
Right. We went from these really fixed, slow forms of communication to this constant, instantaneous connection. I mean, we can video chat with someone across the globe in a matter
Or seconds and get news updates in real time, like as they're happening.
It's totally transformed our relationship with time and information. Everything feels so immediate now.
Yeah, there's definitely that sense of like instant gratification now. Like waiting for something feels almost unbearable.
Right. We've kind of lost the art of patience, haven't we?
It's like we traded patience for efficiency, which, I mean, isn't always a bad thing, I guess. But it definitely makes you wonder about the trade-offs.
Definitely food for thought. But I think one of the biggest turning points in this whole smartphone revolution has got to be the iPhone.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 2007, the iPhone drops. Is like the whole world shifted, right?
It was a game changer. I mean, it wasn't the first smartphone, but it was the first one to really nail the user experience. The capacitive touchscreen was huge, so much more responsive and intuitive.
In the App Store.
Like suddenly your phone could do practically anything.
Exactly. It wasn't just a phone anymore. It was a mini computer in your pocket.
Yeah.
And with mobile internet becoming more accessible, well, that just blew everything wide open.
Yeah. It's wild to think like back then, even having the internet on your phone was kind of like a novelty. And now it's like unthinkable to be without it.
Right. It's become an essential part of our lives. I mean, think about it. Work, communication, entertainment, shopping.
Yeah.
It all revolves around our smartphones now.
And speaking of work, smartphones have kind of blurred the lines between like work time and personal time, haven't they? Like I've definitely answered work emails on the beach before. Not always successfully, though. Sand and screens, not a good combo.
Yeah, that always-on work culture is a definite downside. It's hard to switch off when you're constantly connected, and like, where do we draw the boundaries? It's a constant struggle.
Totally. It's like, yeah, it's convenient, but at what cost? And then there's the whole world of social media, which, let's be honest, is a whole other beast entirely. I mean, yeah, smartphones basically gave birth to these platforms, right? Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, the whole influencer culture. It's crazy.
It's like a parallel universe, and it's changed the way we interact with each other, the way we consume information, even the way we see ourselves.
Okay, so let's dive into this a little deeper because, I mean, social media has its good sides, right? Like connecting with people across the world, sharing ideas, building communities.
Absolutely. And it can be a powerful tool for social change, too. Think about movements like #MeToo and Black Lives Matter. These movements gained incredible momentum thanks to social media.
Right, so it's not all bad. But then there's the flip side, like all the comparison, the pressure to present this like perfect online persona, the constant stream of often negative or misleading information.
Yeah, it's a lot. We're constantly bombarded with information, and it can be overwhelming. And yeah, the comparison culture is a real issue. It can be really damaging to our self-esteem and mental health.
It's like this weird double-edged sword. And I feel like we're all still kind of figuring out how to navigate it.
Totally. It's a constant learning process. But smartphones haven't just changed how we connect with each other, right? They've also revolutionized how we entertain ourselves and even how we shop.
Oh, for sure. Like remember going to the video store to rent movies or like flipping through a catalog to find something to buy.
Those days feel so long ago. Now it's all streaming services and online shopping. We can buy practically anything with a few taps on our phones.
Which,
I mean, is super convenient, but also kind of scary. Like it's way too easy to overspend, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's the whole data privacy issue.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. Every click, every purchase, every search, it's all being tracked. Where's all that data going? Who's using it and how?
Okay, so we've talked about how Smartphones have impacted our personal lives, but they've also caused massive disruption in like whole industries. Take journalism, for
Oh,
example.
yeah. The news cycle is 24/7 now, and anyone with a smartphone can potentially be a citizen journalist.
Which can be a good thing.
Right, like more transparency, more accountability.
Exactly. It can be a powerful tool for holding those in power accountable.
But then there's also the problem of like misinformation spreading like wildfire.
Yeah.
It's harder than ever to know what to believe.
That's the real challenge in this age of information overload. We need to be really critical consumers of information, especially online.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole transportation industry, which has been totally upended by ride-sharing apps like Uber and Lyft. I mean, I haven't hailed a cab in ages.
It's amazing how quickly those services have become ingrained in our lives. It's so convenient. But we also have to think about the impact on traditional taxi services.
Right, and the whole debate about the rights of gig workers.
It's a complex issue for sure. It's just another example of how technology can disrupt established industries, sometimes in ways we don't anticipate.
Totally. Oh, and we can't forget about healthcare, like telemedicine, health tracking apps, all this data we're collecting about our bodies. It's fascinating and a little bit freaky at the same time.
Yeah, the quantified self is a whole other rabbit hole, isn't it? Like, is all this data actually empowering, or is it just making us more anxious?
It's a good question. And I think it kind of ties into our bigger conversation about like the impact of smartphones in our lives.
No, absolutely. There's so much potential for good, but also a lot of potential downsides.
So where do we go from here? I mean, what's next for smartphones? I've heard about like AI integration, foldable screens, augmented reality experiences.
It seems like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, the technology is advancing at an incredible pace. But I think it's more important than ever to ask ourselves, like, what role do we want these devices to play in our lives? That's a good question. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I guess the big takeaway is that smartphones are like these incredibly powerful tools. They can connect us, inform us, entertain us, make our lives easier in so many ways. But like any powerful tool, there are risks involved.
Exactly. So I guess I'll leave you with this thought. In a world that's becoming increasingly reliant on smartphones, how can you use this technology consciously and responsibly? How can you maximize the benefits while minimizing the risks?
It's a question worth pondering. I mean, this is something that affects all of us every single day. So take some time to think about your own relationship with your smartphone. How has it changed the way you live, the way you work, the way you connect with others?
It's a mini deep dive of your own.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.